Hello world of YouTube, and welcome to a listening log aside, the segment where I take a look at the EPs I've listened to over the last couple of months. This is for quarter 3, 2019. I only have 5 EPs up for discussion today, because I just don't listen to EPs that much. But we got a request to knock out, so let's dive on in. Sorry in advance for having to use my own music as the interstitials. The site that I use to rip audio is not working, and I can't get the audio I need, so this is the only workaround I can have to have these interstitial moments that I think work really well for my format. So until I can get a workaround, that's what we're having for this video. Now I, like many, all pretty much corners of the internet, was intrigued when Ameer said that he was coming back with some hot, new, fresh music, solo, outside of Brockhampton. And I was excited to see what he would pull together with Emmanuel, because, you know, while there hasn't been much solo outings from Brockhampton outside of, like, Kevin Abstract, I was curious to see if Ameer could hold his own without the group, if the lyrics would reflect a lot about his time post-Brockhampton, the whole Brockhampton incident. And it is. I don't really care much for his perspective, mostly because I just think that his side of the story is pretty trash. And I think that this EP is a shitty proof of concept on a full-length record. I'm not going to get into my opinions on the drama outside of, obviously, Ameer's not necessarily the best person. But I feel like even if this was solid, I would have been intrigued to hear a full length, but it's not. Like, yeah, I like some of the hooks. I like the hook on Pop Trunk. I think Glock 19's fine. LA is a decent cut. I think Emmanuel starts the EP off with a strong instrumental, but Ameer's flow just gets boring by the end of the release, and this thing does not warrant many re-listens to me personally. I think that Ameer showcases that on this EP, he's kind of a one-trick pony, and he kind of plays that one trick out, even amongst just 6 brief songs. Like I said, I think the lyrical topics that do delve into the whole Brockhampton incident feel very shallow. Again, I don't really like his side of the story, and outside of that, he doesn't provide much that he didn't do better on the Brockhampton trilogy. I'm personally probably going to give this thing a 4. I think it's pretty underwhelming outside of the highlights that I mentioned, and again, it doesn't make me want to hear a full length from Ameer by himself. I feel like this would have done a lot better to have some features pop up to break up his flow, which doesn't have much dynamics in it, to me personally. And the next EP I checked out was a request from Mark from Spin Reviews and Fully Involved. Alternate Eras Trips on the Space Whip, band that I'm pretty sure he saw live. They were opening for some other bigger band, and this was fine. They're like a rap rock duo, not necessarily rap rock in the same vein as like a Limp Bizkit or a Rage Against the Machine. It's more like a Flowbots or like a Mayday for those strange music heads. It's 2 dudes with some lively instrumentation. And this is fine. It's pretty solid. I think that the issues I have with it stem from the fact that they're a lesser act, so they don't necessarily have the budget to make something bigger. And I respect the admiration in that respect, because this thing does have some decent production for an independent act. And just stuff that can kind of be honed with further continuing to make music. I don't want to see these guys stop, because I like their aesthetic. I like the style. It's very laid back. It's very chill. You know, the 2 rappers in this group have some nice chemistry together, and I think that their singing and everything is pretty competent and fine. And I dig the whole space aesthetic they're going for. I dig the vibe on like Cheaty's Greedy Odyssey, and I love the opener, Driving to Groovetown. This is a solid EP and a good proof of concept, and something that I would like to see fleshed out more in like a full length. I would just also like to see them maybe hire out a producer or get like a rental space or a better recording space to kind of make their sound feel more fleshed out, because there's a big contrast between the live instrumentation and their vocals. The vocals almost seem produced in a way to mask some of the hindrances that came with the recording of some of the instrumentation. But this is solid. I think the guitar work is fine. I like the backbeat on the instrumentals, and I like these two. I think they're cool. I'm giving this a 6. It's honestly it's worth your time if you like some more laid back hip hop, kind of a rigid flow. Gets loose at sometimes, but it's chill. I dig this thing. Thank you, Mark, for the suggestion, and I'll be keeping my eyes out for these guys and see what they make in the future. You know what I mean? I feel like I'd be called out if I didn't talk about Lil Nas X, because I haven't yet. And while his kind of time in like the #1 spot is well past, I've actually finally sat down and listened to 7. I hadn't listened to it. All I'd heard was Panini and the Old Town Road remixes and the original. And I think this is a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be going in. I have no beef with Old Town Road as a song. I think it's cool that like this sort of independent it's kind of the best thing that could have ever happened out of like TikTok Vine music. It's led to some less than great singles in its wake, but as a song itself, it's neat. I like the whole 9 Inch Nails sample. I think I've talked about that on a couple aspects of the internet, because I guess I have talked about Old Town Road in that instance because it's neat. But the rest of the EP is pretty cool. I like the kind of more rock-tinged stuff like on Family. I think the production's a little inconsistent on those songs, but I think it's cool that there's a young artist wanting to do that kind of experimentation sonically, and I like that he's also just not sticking to the whole I'm gonna make more country rap shtick, which could have easily happened given that he became incredibly successful off of it. I think Panini's fine. I've heard some people complain that Interlope's In Bloom by Nirvana, it's there, but like you've really got to be like, now that's definitely the same notes as In Bloom, because it's not that on the nose. I know that there was like some shit stirring from that. I think it's dumb. I think it's nice that he kind of kept it pretty subdued on this as well, as far as like features and stuff. I like that it's just Cardi. Cardi's on Rodeo, and I think Rodeo's a fine song. Again, I like that he's deciding to switch it up. He's not just doing the trap or the country or the features of both. He's doing some rock stuff, and I like the rock stuff. And I like to see him do more on a full-length album. If anything, this has the same follies and positives I could give to Billie Eilish's latest album. I'd like to see what he could do more, you know, and that's why I'm giving it the same score I gave When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? I'm giving it a 6. While I don't have as many negatives to say about it like I did with Billie Eilish's record, is because it's just an EP. This is a proof of concept, and I think this proof of concept works, and I would like to see it done more in the future. Beabadoobee is an artist that was suggested to me on my YouTube page. She Plays Bass was on my YouTube recommended, and I listened to it, and I dig it. I dig the sound of this. I dig the sound of a lot of this. It's got this kind of dreamy, early 90s aesthetic, but it's funneled through this indie dream pop scope. It's very akin to like Beach House, but with a more lean on like indie rock, alternative rock from the 90s, and less on like dense stuff. Sure, the guitars on here are dense and crunchy, and it kind of plays in the whole space vibe that a lot of the record has lyrically, and the whole record kind of has this feeling of like twee isolation, like on I Wish I Was Stephen Malkmus and Space Cadet, the title track. But it's also just got cute shit like She Plays Bass, which again has space stuff in the lyrics, but it's like a cute, twee little indie pop record, you know, that I'm glad is getting traction, because I think it's fun, it's cutesy. You know, the singer to Beabadoobee, she has a nice voice. It's very indie. It's a very indie record. It's very late 2000s indie in the purest way possible, in a time when indie feels so very, you know, ambiguous. This is very definitively, this is indie rock, and I like that. It doesn't feel like, you know, Todd in the Shadows complained a lot about indie rock feels commercialized. This doesn't feel like that. This just feels like a cutesy, space-themed rock EP. I think it's fun. I give it an 8. You know, I could see this playing in like some films in the future if some artsy director wants to pick it up. It's very moody in a very teenage sense, but I like that about it. It's very primal in that sense, and I like that about it. Definitely pick this up if you haven't heard it yet. I know Beabadoobee's getting some buzz generated about them because of their weird name, and their music videos are kind of popping up everywhere, but this is worth your listen. It's not just a bunch of bunch of smoke blowing up people's asses. I dig this thing a lot. I don't remember if I actually ended the Beabadoobee section. 8 out of 10. It's good, sorry. I'm still getting used to this new camera and the footage stuff.
Is that it?
Oh, I got 2 more.
No.
To talk about. Yes, that's exactly. That's
That's
all.
That's all we waited for?
That's all we waited for.
I have to burp, so can you wait a second?
Yeah.
I can't get it to come
Burp.
out. It'll come now.
The next EP that I checked out was requested by Shake, kind of. He told me to check these guys out because he'd seen them live, and they actually convinced him to join Instagram. Planet Booty. Thank you for bringing Shake to Instagram. But, talking about the latest Planet Booty EP, Guilty Pleasure, which these guys, I had heard they were on Twerps Together Through Time, so I knew that they were like a synth funk, sort of disco-inspired band. But this isn't the same type of era that inspired Twerp. It's not like 70s. It's very 80s like Twerp, but it's more late 80s, early 90s, even late 90s funk. I get a lot of boy band-ish synth pop tendencies on tracks like Naughty, and on the opening track Guilty Pleasure, especially with how their singer sings. But that retro sound is more seen on like I Can't Make My Mind Up and Authenticity, which have like vocoded infused vocals. It's a really fun EP, and this is a great EP, and actually reminds me a lot of the earlier Twerp EPs that I had reviewed back in 2015. And I like this. I like this EP a lot. The only 2 songs, I was right. The only 2 songs I wasn't really feeling as much as the rest were They Say and Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday has some like LMFAO vibes, which is fine. It's got some fun wordplay in it, but I'd argue it's one of the weaker moments on the record. Same with They Say. They Say is fine, but I think the modern trap idiosyncrasies and production injected into their sound don't benefit them as much as, say, the just real dedication to like 90s pop and 80s synth funk that I think lends well to their sound and their aesthetic. I dig this project a lot, though, and I would like to see them, like Beabadoobee and Alternate Era, flesh it out into a full-length album. But I am giving this a much higher score. I'm giving this an 8, like I did Space Cadet. I think it's a really fun EP that has a lot of tight grooves and a really good vocal delivery. I love the harmonies on this thing. I love how lush the synths sound, and I'm glad that Twerp worked with them and that Shake recommended this to me, because it's a lot of fun. I dig this project a lot. I think that if you like synth funk, if you liked what Twerp has put out, you'll enjoy this project as well. And I think if you liked the retro sounds that, say, like Carly Rae Jepsen has been toying with on her last couple of albums, you'll also really enjoy this project if you want a more contemporary, popular footnote to compare it to. So the last one I checked out, the last EP checked out, was the latest Miley Cyrus one, She Is Coming, which I mostly checked out out of very morbid curiosity. I figured I wasn't going to like this. I didn't have high expectations, and it lived up to those low expectations. I feel like while the features on here feel very scattered, they also feel a little tacked on. Like, I get that RuPaul fits on a song called Catitude, but it's really cheesy. I don't really like it. That same cheesiness is seen on tracks like Mother's Daughter and on Dream, oddly enough, which, given her performance in the Black Mirror episode that I really enjoyed, I was hoping, I had a small glimpse of hope that maybe she would have pulled together something a little more competent, even though there's something on here called Catitude, and there's a clear Wu-Tang ripoff with Dream. I was hoping, maybe, but no. This thing sucks. A lot of the production is flaccid, doesn't work. The best part about it is the last section of Dream with Ghostface, which is upsetting because Dream had potential. I like the idea of making Cream into a drug song, but it just doesn't work. I hear that this is supposed to be the teaser to a new album, and if it sounds like this, it's probably going to be very underwhelming to me personally. I'm giving this like... It's not the worst thing I've heard. Its biggest sin is that it's very uninteresting and feels very uninspired, which, given where Miley's been at over the last couple of years is both surprising and unsurprising at the same time, because she seems to set herself up for greatness or something different in an exciting way, and she fails to capitalize on that excitement on a project, to me personally. And that's where I sit with the last EPs I've checked out over the last couple of months. What did you think of these? Is there an EP you would like me to check out before the year's over? Let me know. Those comments down below. I still have some on the docket I'm going to get to, but we'll see if I get to them. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, be sure to like it. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general nerdery content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to patrons. If you'd like to join their ranks, linked in the description is my Patreon. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to get out of here. I've been VowRag. You guys have good days, lives, and situations. And I'll see you another day.